Yo, yo, yo. Mic look like it's working. Okay. Yo, yo, yo. It's your boy RJ, and we got episode 10. It's crazy, we already 10 episodes into the podcast, but we got episode 10 of We Game Podcast, the podcast where we talk about games. Why? Because we game. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. This podcast is either bi-weekly or weekly, just depending on the game and news or whatever. On Saturdays, starting between 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the best time zone. But we're going to have a pretty entertaining podcast this week. A lot of games have been announced over the past, 2 weeks, right? It's been a lot of gaming news involving new games that will be coming out soon or will be coming out sometime next year. So first game that we're going to be speaking about today or topic, aka topic, will be about the new Steam game that is taking Steam by storm right now. It is a MMORPG. I'm not a huge MMORPG fan, but I'm always open to new styles and genres of games. So this game is in early access right now, and I believe in the next couple days it's going to be free to play, but you have to pay to get into the early access version. The game will be launching October 1st. So let's go ahead and check this bad boy out real quick. Go ahead and throw this bad boy in 1440p, because we ain't about to watch no 720p video. Let's get it.
In this Throne and Liberty video, we'll be exploring the mechanics and concepts of the MMORPG that is launching on October 1st, which is just under a week away, and bringing you up to speed on what you can expect from the title. Throne and Liberty is a free-to-play MMORPG, and it has a weapon-based class system, extensive exploration features, and even the ability to morph into several animals and take to the skies or sea. We've been following Throne and Liberty over at Fextralife for a long time, and we actually did a preview video for this title back in 2017, if you can believe that, when it looked completely different than it does now. But now, with the imminent Western launch, it's long overdue to catch up on the channel, so you can see if it's worth the install or not. However, before we do that, I want to give a big shout out to Amazon Games for sponsoring this video. If you like what you see in this video and you want to check the game out for free and see if it's for you, use our link below to support the channel.
Taking this with a grain of
Throne
salt.
and Liberty will be available on PC via Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S with cross-platform play enabled by default. While it has been available in South Korea since December 2023, it will officially launch in North and South America, Europe, and Japan on October 1st. The game aims to bring a unique experience to the MMO space, focusing heavily on exploration and open-ended gameplay. This is apparent right from the start, as unlike traditional MMORPGs that require players to choose a specific class, Throne and Liberty allows players flexibility by tying skills, abilities, and roles with weapon types rather than classes. The game's story sets the stage for extraordinary battles. The Wraith of Conquest, Khazar has amassed huge armies and threatens to engulf the realm of Solaceum in darkness. All kingdoms and factions in the land turn to the magic of the Star of Siliveth, with a worldwide hunt for its powerful magical fragments that are seen as the only hope to resist Khazar's invasion. As desperation grows, power struggles arise and guilds are formed to go after these special items. In this context, you must strategically plan and determine how to outmaneuver rival guilds, all while preparing for the inevitable clash with Khazar's
Look how many players
armies.
is on the screen.
There's a lot more to the story that you can get into, but since that's something best explored personally, let's instead focus on gameplay and mechanics. One of the standout features of Throne and Liberty is that it deviates from the traditional class.
Before he gets too deep into the gameplay and mechanics, I just gotta say that even though I'm not a huge MMO player, I do have room in my life for a new MMO, right? But a lot of these MMOs, the issues that it has is the onboarding process. I think when these developers that develop these big MMO games, when they're making these games, they expect the player base to be, the hardcore more or less, or they don't expect the new players to the genre to really try out their game, or at least that's how they seem like they designed the game. They designed the game in a way that if you are a new player to an MMO genre, and you're trying to jump into these huge MMOs, you're going to be bombarded and overwhelmed with information. And a lot of people do not have the time and patience to sit there and read 4 or 5 pages of UI directions. They just don't, right? So it's hard to have that balance of having the depth that an MMO, online MMO, has to have, and being simple enough to where new players of the genre, just not new players of your game, but new players of the genre, is able to jump in and have an enjoyable experience like the first 20 to 50 hours of playing the game. I know Destiny 2 has had this issue as far as onboarding new players. So hopefully this game is not, does not fall victim to that type of game design.
Class-based gameplay that many of the MMORPGs out there have. In most MMOs, players choose a specific class to fulfill a role at the start of their adventure, such as being a warrior, archer, mage, or healer, and stick to those roles throughout the game with an option to create additional characters when they want to change it up a bit. However, Throne and Liberty takes a different approach, which eliminates the need to commit to a class, and instead, players choose from a variety of weapons that tie to the abilities that the weapon types have. Each weapon type in Throne and Liberty is associated with a set of unique skills and abilities, both active and passive. This allows for a highly customized experience and flexibility, as players can equip 2 weapons at a time and switch between them during combat, making their build based around their favorite 2 weapons. I play a lot of MMOs, and I can see the appeal of both styles, but I'm particularly interested in Throne and Liberty's combat because it just looks so engaging. There are currently 7 weapon types that the player can choose from, but more are expected to be added in future game updates. Let me run you through what these are really quickly. If you prefer to take on the role of Protector, then Sword and Shield turns you into the ultimate tank. With this setup, you can draw enemy attacks, shielding both yourself and your allies when the heat of battle intensifies. It's all about standing your ground and ensuring your team stays safe under your protection. For those who thrive on fast-paced but heavy melee combat, the Greatsword is your go-to weapon. This versatile weapon lets you dish out heavy damage while staying mobile, making it ideal for players who want to dive into the action and dominate in close-quarters combat.
Okay.
If stealth is more your style, then the dagger gives you the tools of an assassin. With its speed and agility, you can strike from the shadows, confusing enemies and inflicting crowd control effects. The dagger is perfect for players who prefer a covert approach, slipping in and out of danger while disrupting enemy formations.
Yeah, we gonna have to check this out.
For players who prefer ranged combat, the crossbow offers precision and speed. With the fastest attack rate and the ability to debuff enemies, this weapon allows you to keep your foes at a distance while dealing steady, reliable damage. If you prefer to deal damage from even greater distances, the longbow gives you the edge of a long-range marksman. You can rain arrows down on enemies from afar, staying out of harm's way while delivering lethal blows with accuracy. And of course, if you're looking to play as a mage, there's the staff, which allows you to deal significant damage to multiple targets at once. This weapon turns you into the sorcerer of the battlefield, casting powerful spells that leave a lasting impact on your enemies. And finally, the Wand and Tome combination is all about support. This setup enables you to focus on aiding your allies in battle, providing healing and buffs that make you an essential part of your team's survival. As a support unit, your role is critical in keeping the fight going and ensuring your team stays strong in the toughest of battles. I think the 7 weapon types offer a good amount of variety to give players well-rounded roles in battle and offers opportunities for support and complementary gameplay when doing group content. A player could switch between a greatsword for close-quarter combat and a Wand and Tome for healing in a single encounter, adjusting their role depending on the situation. Having a combination of weapons along with specializations that come along with them can make for complex builds and variety for players to engage in. Modern MMOs have a tendency to create master of all classes, so I'm quite excited to see how the community approaches content and which playstyles emerge as the most needed for each type of content. Moving along to character progression. Character progression is one of the most important parts of any RPG, so having a good character development experience is crucial for these kinds of games with long cycles toward endgame activities. Throne and Liberty offers a straightforward approach to the first 50 levels, where you will mostly benefit from doing regular quests such as those from your Adventure Codex, and get perks from opening up exploration quests by finding waypoints. The system isn't grindy, and you can crunch this into a 5-hour period if you want to really push it, but I personally find the leveling part to be one of the attractions to playing Throne and Liberty. As you level, you'll note your skills can be upgraded from their starting point of
Now let's take a look at this menu. This menu looks very simple. It doesn't look overwhelming. It looks pretty straightforward. You got your abilities straight in the center of the screen, and then you got your different, it looks like, defensive skill. Okay, so this looks like something that I can jump into as a new player. That's all I ask for, because there are a lot of people who want to get into the MMO genre, that just when they think about an MMO, it has a stigma against it. Like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be too much. I'm gonna be behind in the learning curve. But one thing that Diablo 4 did very, very well for a guy like me who works a 9 to 5, who doesn't have all the time in the world or doesn't even have an extensive past gaming history in the ARPG genre, they made a very good entry level game when it comes to ARPGs. And I love Diablo 4, and I got 6 different characters on Diablo 4 just because how simple it is. And this looks like a very simple game as well. My only concern is I know the game's going to be free to play. So that is my concern. How much does the free to play business model affect the actual gameplay, progression, and satisfaction of leveling up my character?
Common level 1. When an upgrade is available, you can use precious skill growth books to improve both their quality, the uncommon part will become intermediate, greater, or special, and their level, resulting in more powerful versions of your known abilities.
The animations are fire.
This contributes to a constant feeling of betterment that is quite rewarding as you play. In addition to selecting your weapon and abilities and leveling them up, you'll also have a lot of control over your character's combat style thanks to the skill specialization system. After reaching level 25, you'll begin earning extra skill specialization points with each level up. You can then start allocating up to 100 points into various weapon augmentations. These enhancements can modify your skills in extreme ways, such as increasing their area of effect, adding debuffs, or allowing you to move while using skills that usually keep you stationary. You can also extend the channeling time of certain skills to boost damage. Additionally, each weapon gains a new skill through this system, bringing the total of 12 unique skills per weapon. The tinkering available from the skill specialization system brings builds to another level entirely and gives you an enormous amount of freedom in how to progress your character to make it unique to your playstyle, and all of this with a rather easy reset button so you can adapt when something didn't quite work out. And if all of that wasn't enough, you can also transfer XP from one skill to another with some limitations, so you don't have to regrind your progress from scratch each time. Next, let's take a look at gear progression. You will also need to use the enchanting system in Throne of Liberty to improve your gear and equipment. Gear progression is done with growth stones available in white, green, blue, and purple tiers. Higher tier stones provide better upgrades for leveling up your gear. Unlike some traditional enchanting systems that risk weapon damage or loss, this system ensures that enhancements are applied without setbacks. Your weapon's level will remain intact and you won't face the risk of failure. You can merge growth stones to create higher tier versions and obtain bonuses for your enchanting, and you can also transfer XP from one gear piece to another, ensuring you don't lose your progress. There are some limitations to it, so you'd have to look at the efficiency thresholds for when to do the transfer, but the fact that there is a system in place is quite reassuring. There's a lot more to character and gear progression in Throne of Liberty, but it would probably be its own entire video, so the summary of it is that you should expect to have a quite engaging leveling experience and a lot of options and choices to feel you are progressing with your character as you go, as well as tools to swap and experiment without many drawbacks or regrinding. In Throne of Liberty, exploration is not just encouraged, it's a core component of the game. Much like Guild Wars 2, where exploration is rewarded with experience, new locations, and materials, Throne of Liberty incentivizes its players to explore the vast world of Solaceum. However, this isn't just a static world with static rewards, and the game incorporates a dynamic weather system and a day and night cycle that affects gameplay in various ways. Solaceum's world design really stands out from other MMOs I've played because it focuses on verticality and seamless exploration. You can climb towering cliffs, explore deep underground caverns, soar through the skies, and sail or swim across open seas, all without loading screens, making the world feel immense and connected.
It looks really nice.
Each region you explore has its own unique features and quirks as well. The day and night cycle in Throne of Liberty lasts for 5 hours in real time, 4 hours of daylight, and 1 hour of night.
Okay.
Enemies can change behavior depending on the time of day, and certain NPCs only appear during specific time periods.
Okay.
This adds a layer of planning to exploration, as players will need to adapt to the constantly changing patterns to plan their movements accordingly. For instance, some creatures might roam an area at night, making travel more dangerous, but potentially more rewarding for those brave enough to venture out into the night. Some abilities are also affected by the time of day. For example, the dagger's Ghost Step ability grants increased movement speed at night, giving dagger users who prefer the stealth-oriented playstyle an advantage during the evening. Weather also plays a significant role in the world of Throne and Liberty. There can be sunny days and clear nights, although it can also rain or be windy, with each weather condition occurring at random. Once it rains, it will last for 30 minutes with guaranteed clear weather after for at least 2 hours. These weather conditions not only affect the aesthetics of the world, but also impact gameplay and even the accessibility of certain areas. For example, a castle sewer might become flooded during a rainstorm, making it inaccessible for players. The wind can also play a factor, as the trajectory of arrows will be influenced by its direction, and the wind can also aid players in reaching specific locations. To further boost exploration, your character also possesses the ability to take on a variety of unique forms, not only to blend into the environment, but also to navigate and engage in battle with a tactical edge. These transformations aren't just cosmetic. Each form serves a practical purpose, allowing you to adapt to your surroundings and the challenges ahead.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and stop the video here. Let's go ahead and shout this guy out. His name is Fetra Life. So if you enjoyed this video and his breakdown of this game, go ahead and give him a subscribe and or like on his video. I'm definitely very interested in Throne and Liberty. Like I said before, my only issue with the game is the fact that it's free to play. I would much rather prefer a game be, have a premium price and it be, $30-40 and they eliminate all that microtransaction stuff, or they mitigate it to a bare minimum. Keep it at a bare minimum. You ain't gotta, constantly bombard me with ads or go subscribe and buy our battle pass. I don't want to see all that. So that's my only concern. I'm curious to see what they do with monetization. Like I said, if you're interested in playing the game, it's on early access right now for like $30 or $40 at the cheapest to get into the game right now. But if you wait till October 1st, the game will be free to play. So we're going to be moving on to the next topic of today. So, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, there have been many game reveals over the last couple weeks, and Ghost of Yotei, which is a PlayStation exclusive, just got revealed at the State of Play that just happened earlier this week. I believe it was Tuesday when it happened. And we're going to go ahead and check that bad boy out. I'm definitely interested to see this game.
We are beyond the edge of Japan. People come north to disappear. But you...
Graphics look so good.
You
That's expected.
are hunting. And now, every Ronin here is after you. Still think you're the hunter?
Fire. Sucker Punch did it again, man. Sucker Punch did it again. And we got a female protagonist. Okay, I see it. I'm not mad at it. RJ love the ladies, you feel me? Okay. Let's go. Now, off the bat, this game, I hope, and I know it's not gonna happen, but I hope they drop this game day and date on PC, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because the amount that PlayStation can profit, all these Sony ponies, right? All these PlayStation hardcore fanboys that hate Xbox want Sony to continue to make these mega successful single player games. And as of recently, we've been seeing Sony putting their single player games on PC. Matter of fact, Ragnarok just hit PC. And what else hit PC? I want to say Final Fantasy 16, which is not a first party studio, but it is a third party deal that Sony had with Square Enix. With that being said, Ragnarok is not doing too well right now on Steam. And even though Ragnarok is majorly successful just being a Sony exclusive, think about the amount of success that a game like Ghost of Yotei could have on PC if it launches day and date. Being able to ride that hype train. See, a lot of people fail to realize how much word of mouth sells a game, especially on the internet, and then how much that hype train, that FOMO, will push people into buying games, right? But if you're releasing a single player game a year, 2 years, 3 years after it's already been released, you have none of that. You've lost all momentum at that point. And so only people that really even care will buy the game. Really, to be honest, most of the people that buy these games on PC are that these single player games that's been out for 2 years, 3 years, are people who already own PlayStations and just want to play this game at its best possible fidelity. That's really the only people that's buying these single player games on PC, because at that point the PC audience has so many games to play. Matter of fact, we just seen a statistic earlier this week. I didn't make it into its own topic, but I'll bring it up in this topic. We just seen Steam hit 38 million concurrent players on PC. I guarantee you PlayStation, especially the PS5 player base, is not hitting 38 million concurrent players. I guarantee you that. So imagine you tapping into a FOMO experience with those 38 million players. Now that's 38 million players concurrent. That's not even 38 million players total. We're talking about hundreds of millions of Steam accounts created. That's 38 million players at one time on Steam. So with that being said, Sony, it is highly profitable if you start releasing. You're already doing it for your live service games. Why not do it for the single player tentpole experience? You're only hurting your own pockets. You're not hurting the PC players. We already have enough games to play. We have games that will never touch PlayStation. We have games that will never touch Xbox. We're already busy playing these other games. So you're not hurting us. Now, Ghost of Yotei is a game. The way it's looking, it is a game if you do enjoy these Japanese style games, these Chinese style games, or whatever the case may be. If you have it as an exclusive on PlayStation, it will move a couple PlayStations. I will admit that. It's not going to do the equivalent, though, if it was to be released on PC day and date. It's not going to generate that equivalent amount of money. People are not about to sprint out to Best Buy or GameStop to buy a PlayStation because Ghost of Yotei is an exclusive. It's not going to happen. So, me personally, I'm very excited for the game. I got a PlayStation 5. I'm primarily a PC player. So I'm definitely going to be jumping on this day one best believe it. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below and or the live chat. That being said, we're moving on to the next topic. Definitely excited for Ghost of Yote. Shout out to Sucker Punch. So, that trailer, Ghost of Yote, was released on, or revealed, excuse me, during the PlayStation State of Play. Another game that caught my attention that was revealed during the PlayStation State of Play is a game called Hell Is Us. So let's go ahead and check out this game. This game also caught my attention. It looks like a Souls-like, possibly. Very, very interesting.
I don't remember when it happened, but I remember how I felt. Father told us to hide when they came to our house. Then they took him away. Mother said I couldn't play outside anymore. Everyone had fled. She said the country was sick, but we would be okay. Mother always said monsters didn't exist. I thought they lived under my bed. We were both wrong. They live inside our heads.
Graphics looking good. They looking next gen. Okay. I'm liking it. This is a game that definitely caught your boy's attention. The reason why is, you know what it's giving me? It's giving me Demon Souls remaster vibes with like a modern twist on it. And then it looks like they're focusing a good amount and putting a lot of resources into storytelling. If this is a Souls-like, it looks like a Souls-like to me, but I don't think it's confirmed that it's a Souls-like. But if this is a Souls-like, we need more games in the Souls-like genre that focuses on storytelling, kind of similar to what Liza P did. Liza P is great. It's exactly what you expect from a Souls-like game. But having gameplay that mimics Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Elden Ring is not good. Not going to be from pace. FromSoft is good storytelling. That's the only thing that they need to improve on. Outside of that, you can't beat them in gameplay. So if they are doing, you know, they have an immersive story, they have an immersive world, they have good voice acting, I think we might have a possible sleeper hit on our hands. This game is looking very good. I don't know if it's a PlayStation exclusive just yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. PlayStation has been doing a great job this year. I'll give PlayStation that. PlayStation has been doing a great job this year securing third-party deals for exclusives. Got your boy's mouth watering. Pause. No diddy. So we're going to move on to the next topic with that being said. So Sony doubles price of Horizon Zero Dawn after the remaster announcement. Zero Dawn. Sketchy. Let's go ahead.
Horizon Zero Dawn remaster.
Dive
We've
a
all
little
been
deeper.
saying, who needs it? Who needs it? The game looks fine. Some of the side-by-side improvements are certainly present. I mean, there's no doubt about that, because there are genuine improvements to be made, or that have been made. And I don't want to pretend as though, you know, it hasn't. There's examples like this YouTuber pulled up some side-by-sides to try and showcase it. I don't know who this is, but they put some,
that looks good.
some little side-by-sides here to look at. As you can see here, little improvements to lighting. The most clear-cut ones are like these, with the actual models having been swapped, where
That looks good. Yeah, that
I
looks
think,
good.
you know, she looks less like a carved potato model. Because in the original Horizon Zero Dawn, there were weird texture things, like the subsurface scattering was off. So all of the NPCs kind of looked not even waxy. They look like a wet potato. Like, you know, when you peel it and then you could carve something out of it. They look like walking, talking potatoes. But now the skin actually looks much better. They look more human. I think it's an improvement. Okay.
It definitely is.
I
an
want to be clear about
improvement.
that. But what they're doing,
But to me, it's like it's an improvement. But is it a remaster level improvement? In my opinion, this could have simply just been a update, next gen update. It didn't have to be a whole separate game. That's my issue with this. And if you already own the game, to my understanding on PlayStation, I believe, you only have to pay $10 for the update. Which is another scammy thing, or I wouldn't even say scammy. I would just say it's another corporate greed move by PlayStation. Y'all are updating y'all games for the player base, but you're charging them $10 to get a graphical enhancement. But you want your player base to stay loyal to y'all though, right? You want your player base to support you guys, right? But you are charging $10 for a graphical enhancement. You're not even including an expansion on the story. You're not including more content. You're only upgrading the visuals. So you're going to charge me $10 to upgrade the visuals. And then if I have a 4D chess mastery level move and be like, you know what, instead of buying the remaster version, they're charging $10 for the upgrade, I'm gonna go buy the PS4 version and then pay the $10 on top of the PS4 version for the upgrade. You're going to double the price, so I can't even do that? Come on, PlayStation. Come on, Sony. Disrespectful, playing with people's intelligence, man. And that's the issue with PlayStation. They be playing with their player base. They're doing I'm starting to notice signs in PlayStation. They're starting to do their player base like Xbox does their player base, like Microsoft does the Xbox player base. Microsoft treats the PC player base much better than they treat the Xbox player base. And I'm starting to notice PlayStation implementing little corporate tactics, is what we're going to call it. Corporate tactics. Waging some type of assault on the pockets and the checkbooks and the checking accounts of their player base. It is what it is. It's the truth. It's kind of scammy to me, I ain't gonna lie. Scummy and scammy.
doing now is something which doesn't surprise anybody, but I think is really just slimy. And this is why it's important to remember that, like, PlayStation, they're not your friends, okay? They're
Facts.
trying to milk you for all you're worth. That's what they're trying to do. PlayStation has doubled the price of the base game of Horizon Zero Dawn after announcing the remaster. This is a chart of the price point for the last 7 years. Okay? You can see how it goes from 50, it goes on sale, 50, then it drops to 40 bucks or whatever that price point is, then drops down to 20 bucks. And it's sat at 20 bucks, occasionally going on deep sales or even free during certain giveaways. But it's sat at mostly 20 bucks, dropping to 10 occasionally, back up to 20 for years. Literally from July of 2018 all the way through to like 2 days ago. Where is it now? It's up at 40. They doubled the price. Why did they do that?
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. They pushed the price up to 40 bucks so that now you are pushed into buying either the $10 upgrade if you already had the base game to get the remaster, or you're pushed into just buying the remaster, which looks way better in certain instances, certainly. And so now you're pushed to do that. And I guarantee you it's not going to be going on sale like ever again. Because why would it? The whole reason it's at 40 is so it's easier to jump to the higher price point. What is the higher price point of the Zero Dawn remaster? Let's see. Because I've heard them mention the $10 upgrade, but I'm not sure if they've announced what the full price is. 50. So all they're doing, it's really simple. It's called a pricing ladder. Okay. It's what Apple's really good at. MKBHD has done videos talking about this too. But if you have, you know, this scale of pricing, if we have Horizon Zero Dawn, the original game, like right here at 20, and sometimes it drops down to 10, right? Like if it's down there and then the remaster comes along and is priced at 50, this is such a gap. A lot of people are gonna just decide, I'll just stick with the OG. It's not that big of a deal.
That's right.
I'll just stick with the OG. I don't need to spend the extra $30 to get the remaster.
For what?
And Sony knows that, especially if this is bouncing down to like 10 occasions.
Why in the hell would I spend 50 bucks, 60 bucks to get better lighting effects? That's what I'm saying. Like, the game looks perfectly fine. I got the game on PC personally, and I'm playing the game and I'm like, yo, this game looks great on PC. It looks great on PC. All the different settings that I have, all the customizable, you know, ways that I can configure the settings in order to get the look that I want while getting the frames that I want, right? And if I'm not even mistaken, I can even go on Nexus Mods and install some mods to make the game look even better. Put a reshade on top of the game. If you know, you know. Put a reshade on top of the game and make it look even better. Why in the hell, if I already own the game on PC on Steam, why in the hell would I go and buy it again to get some better lighting effects? Make it make sense, PlayStation. Make it make sense. It don't make no sense. That's some slimy ass, Luke Stevens said. That's some slimy tactics, man. That's slimy as hell.
Which at this point it probably wouldn't, but even if it stays at 20, a lot of people would just choose that over the 50. So what do? They raise the price to 40.
Boom.
So now you're looking at this and you're like, oh wow, I can buy the $40 version, or I could just spend the 50, only 10 bucks more, or I could buy the $40 version and then spend the $10 upgrade fee, in which case I would have effectively still spent 50. So I might as well just do that. And then I get the remastered version. So there's literally no reason to buy the $40 version. Because if you buy the $40 version, you could just spend 10 bucks more. And then you get the same version as this, which you should have just bought in the first place. So they take this thing that already exists and push you into spending more money with it, which is what's particularly slimy. And what I find really, you know, unfortunately, it's very common. It's very normal in the industry now, not just in gaming, but also in tech. But what, like, there is no recourse for this because it's all digital. If there were physical copies that were commonplace, it wouldn't be that big of a deal because you could just go and buy a physical version that was purchased at 20. So somebody sells the physical version for 10, right? But now you can't really do that. Now, because it's all digital, your only choice, if you don't own Horizon yet, is to buy the $40 version or just spend 10 extra bucks and get the $50 version. So they've effectively walked you up the ladder, but instead of what they actually should do, which is justify the upgrade to 50 from 20, which is where it was 3 days ago.
Gotcha.
Now they just cut this out, pretend like this doesn't exist, chop off those legs of the ladder, and then push you to 50 that way. It's sneaky. It's slimy. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But this is what PlayStation is doing, because it's good business. It's good business. But it's a similar thing as what they've done with The Last of Us. It's a similar thing as what they've done with all these other franchises that they're going to be doing remasters and remakes of. So it's far from the last time that we'll see this, but it just is how it is, unfortunately.
And what makes it even worse is that you got these Sony ponies out here who will celebrate moves like this, right? Or they won't even, they'll do something even worse. They won't even speak on it. They will talk about everything else outside of the issues that Sony is pushing on y'all, right? They'll go talk about Ghost of Yotei. They'll go talk about how the PlayStation PS5 Pro 30th anniversary edition sold out in seconds, forgetting to tell you that, yeah, same thing that happened when the PlayStation 5 first dropped. The scalpers create these bots where the bots go on the website and instantaneously buy up all the stock, and then they resell it on eBay and other websites of the like, and either double the price or triple the price on your ass. So you have to go through them because they done bought up all the stock. So these ponies out here will forget to tell you that part, and then they won't even speak on stuff like this. They taking advantage of y'all for real, and y'all got this loyalty to these boxes, failing to even realize that, like Luke said, these people are not your friends. These companies are not your friends. They want your money, my boy. They gonna get your money by any means, and your dumb ass gonna give it to them. So, that's all I got to say about this topic. Sony, you did it again. And I gotta give kudos to Sony for getting these suckers for every dollar that they can, and I hope Sony continues to do it until you suckers learn that they not your friend and they don't care about y'all. If y'all stop spending the money, y'all will show them that they need to start improving on these different tactics and being more consumer friendly. But we're going to move on to the next topic. So there was a game revealed, and it didn't really get a lot of hype. It didn't really get a lot of attention, but it caught my eye. It's called Void. It's a PC exclusive. So sorry for you console players. It's a PC exclusive. And we're going to go ahead and check out the trailer. I downloaded the demo on Steam. You can go on Steam right now and download the demo. I've downloaded it. It's only 1 gigabyte. But we're going to check it out. I haven't played the demo yet. We're going to check out the trailer. Let's go ahead and get into it. I like the movement. The movement look real good. That looks fire. Okay. Let's run that demo back one more time. I had to switch it into 1440p. So I wanted to see it in that high quality level. But it looks good. It looks like they did a great job of optimizing it. The frames look good, at least in the trailer. The movement looks so fluid. Animations look fire. Combat looks good. It kind of reminds me of a hack and slash Doom. Like, that's what it's looking like. Okay. Yeah, buddy. I like the environments too. Yeah, we're gonna check this out right after the podcast. Oh yeah, we messing with that right there. So I just wanted to showcase that demo real quick. Like I said, if you got a PC, the demo is on Steam right now. Voin, go check it out. Treat yourself before you cheat yourself. So we're going to move on to the next topic. Digital Foundry has recently had some hands-on time with the PS5 Pro, and they were able to get some pretty good notes and make some pretty good observations. So let's go ahead and check out what Digital Foundry had to say about the PS5 Pro on IGN. Let's check it out.
I'm pretty cynical about the remake. I never felt like it needed it, but taking a look at the footage side by side, they're actually doing some really interesting stuff with lighting. Definitely the native resolution seems crisper. Just taking a quick look at the two scenes we were provided, Seattle day one and something near the end of the game.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about Last of Us? The lighting was very noticeable looking at them side by side on my edits.
Yeah, so basically with The Last of Us, I spoke to a developer there, and basically they're doing 3 PS5 Pro modes, although not quite in the way that you'd expect. They're doing a new PS5 performance mode, basically, a PS5 Pro performance mode, but then they're also providing you the old graphics mode and the old performance mode to look at, to kind of gawk at, because they feel confident that when you look at that new Performance Pro mode, that you don't really need a 30 FPS mode, that they're very happy with image quality in that mode. The new Performance Pro mode, they confirmed to me, is using PSSR to upscale from 1440p to 4K. And subjectively speaking, it does look a lot like a native 4K render. Now, I did look at it on the show floor, and they also provided some footage that I was able to match in day one of Seattle, kind of that intro scene with Ellie and Dina. And it's definitely resolving a ton of detail with PSSR. It's actually resolving substantially more detail, interestingly, than the old 4K fidelity mode, which was a negative 4K presentation. That is something that we do see with PSSR sometimes, where the upsampling is so effective, they're effectively like super sampling the image almost, and you are getting more detail than you could if you just applied TAA to a native 4K image. But I would say that image stability isn't quite as good. It's more similar to that performance mode, I would say. So it's not quite there completely in terms of that image stability. Again, this is something that we do see in some titles, like with Final Fantasy, for instance, where there's a little bit of a compromise there between getting a super sharp image and maybe getting a super stable image. And we've seen Insomniacs grapple with that a little bit and make some changes there. So it's possible, it's entirely possible that maybe a step in their TAA process that's sort of vestigial now, maybe a sharpening step, could be causing some of those issues, right? So kind of wait and see on that one, but that certainly was my impression there. In terms of the lighting changes, it is sort of interesting. I did note some differences in the lighting position. There's also some differences in shadow position, and then there's also an issue where the depth of field was not displaying correctly on PlayStation 5 Pro, which is a common issue with upscalers, right? Because you end up with certain problems where certain elements of the post-processing aren't necessarily running at full resolution, the depth buffer isn't necessarily at full resolution, and you end up with some issues there potentially. I'm not sure those are intentional necessarily. We'll have to wait and see for that full game. My inclination is that some of those changes, some of which actually look pretty good, like when the light is streaming through the canopy, you get more of that effect here. I'm not entirely sure that is 100% intentional here. I suspect that may just be an artifact of their kind of development process. But it is hard to say, though, because we have so little footage, right? I'd love to see more of this game and do more comparisons. But at the moment, it's sort of ambivalent as to those settings. But the key takeaway here is they're doing a 4K 60 mode. Looks super detailed, not super stable, but I think it'll hold up really well in the 4K set from a typical viewing distance for sure.
Yeah, the two scenes are like 30 seconds of riding in on a horse and
it's not much.
Riding through the village that's burning, and I couldn't see too much beyond the frame rate increases. During the original reveal, your team talked about Ratchet and Clank quite a bit. There's two other maybe we'll touch on that later because we got a little bit more footage, but there was one game I was surprised to see, Demon's Souls, and then Horizon Forbidden West continues to look absolutely phenomenal. Which one would you like to touch on first?
Well, why don't we start with Horizon?
Okay.
I think Horizon is very, very interesting there. They've got a new anti-aliasing and reconstruction method there, that's not checkerboarding, which is what we had suspected in a DF Direct special last week, that it was a 4K checkerboard. It's not that. It's also not PSSR, but it does look very, very impressive. So we had the old PS5 code and the PS4 Pro code, or PS5 Pro code, running side by side there. And there were a lot of elements in the PS5 Resolve that were not resolving correctly, like the checkerboarding was messing up the foliage presentation in particular. It looked very aliased. Now on PS5 Pro, and I have a little bit of footage of this, it looks so much more stable. It's really impressive, and it looks really natural. It doesn't look over sharpened, but at the same time, it is resolving perceptually a full 4K worth of detail. It looks very smooth, very detailed, and very natural. Not too like crystal sharp, but actually like kind of natural, like what you'd expect to see from a film camera almost, where there's a little bit of a sharpness fall off maybe towards the edges, but that consistency is there, that temporal consistency is there, and it actually looks very, very pleasing. They mentioned that it was being developed for future titles, but they backported it back to Horizon Forbidden West, which is pretty cool. Internally, in terms of the pixel counts, I was getting like 1440p to 1584p roughly for the pixel counts there. But again, the final image is what matters, and I actually think that Horizon probably had the best image quality I saw out of any games on show. And then there's also Demon's Souls, if you want to chat about that one.
Well, staying on Horizon for a second, like I said, I can't analyze ProRes footage, but if you go through and you count, it does look like it's pretty close to 60. Did you run that one through?
I did not. By eye, it does look like 60 FPS. Certainly when I was playing, it was running a locked 60 FPS as far as I'm aware. I think that Guerrilla, they did talk a lot about trying to nail that 60 FPS refresh. Certainly what we've seen from Horizon on PS4, or rather not on PS4, on PS4 it's 30 FPS. I should say on PS5, it is capable of running at a very stable 60 FPS update. So I wouldn't expect anything different here. And Guerrilla is really, really good at hitting their performance targets. So yeah, I think it's probably basically just a 60 FPS experience. And like some other developers, Guerrilla is very, very confident that you should play the game at 60 FPS now. They do provide a 30 FPS mode that probably runs the game at a little bit of a higher resolution than typical play, but they did recommend to me, you should play this game at 60 FPS. That is the default. That is what we want players to do. So for sure, with that title, I think that's going to be the premier way to play the game, and indeed a very exciting way to play that game again, because it does look so good.
Yeah. There's also the PC version of the game too. Do you think it stacks up quite well against the PC port?
Speak on it.
Well, it's hard to say, because on PC you get, I believe, DLSS, XeSS, FSR. I think at the moment we just don't have enough points of comparison with PSSR against something like DLSS, which is something a lot of people are interested in.
I mean, to be fair, and I'm gonna be fair on this, they're using a 4090 with DLSS, and I'm sure they're using frame generation. They're using all the bells and whistles against a PS5 Pro that costs $700. The 4090 alone costs double, if not triple, of what a PS5 Pro costs. So if they're a logical person is not going to expect the PS5 Pro to compete with the 4090 in any stratosphere. They're in two totally different universes. They're in two totally different galaxies. There is no way in hell this PS5 Pro got anything on a 4090. But if you look into the side-by-side comparison, it's looking like the PS5 Pro is holding its own. I hate to admit it, but it looks like the PS5 Pro is holding it on its own, especially when you look at price to performance. Now, in the realm of consoles, a $700 price point is just out of this world. But if you want to look at price to performance, the PS5 Pro is holding its own. The only issue that I still have with the PS5 Pro is the lack of functionality when it comes to price to performance. So you don't have access to a lot of different things that you would on a PC playing on a PlayStation, right? But if you just want to look at pure performance side by side, The PS5 Pro has a decent price to performance offer, in my opinion.
Comparison, I think we possibly, if we get some more footage of like Ratchet and Clank or indeed Horizon, although Horizon isn't PSSR, we might get a better sense of how these various solutions stack up to the PC.
Like, just look at that. Look at the screen. Like on the 4090 side, you got a few more reflections, right? Dynamic reflections. You got a little bit more clarity as far as in shadows and draw distance, rendering. But really nobody's looking at stuff like that when they're playing a video game. They're just playing the damn game. And really the only noticeable thing that you need to pay attention to you will end up paying attention to when you're playing these games is the FPS. And it looks like the Pro is holding its own on the FPS side, to me at least.
PC version, my impression from Horizon is that it looked very, very good, but DLSS is kind of the king there. So saying that it's better than DLSS, I'm not sure I would. Again, we need to see some more direct comparisons there. But it did look like it looks extremely smooth and detailed, and it would hold up really, really nicely on a 4K television set. I think that's the key takeaway. In terms of how it compares against DLSS, it is a little bit harder to say because that's such a high bar, but I could see it being competitive, possibly. It is tuned for this game in particular, which probably helps a lot.
Yeah. Are you still thinking that it's comparable to 4070, granted the fact that the 4070 is like 45% above where the GPU of the PS5 Pro would be, but in terms of technology, are you still imagining that in terms of what's available tech-wise, that it's still comparable to the NVIDIA 4070?
I think it depends. I think in terms of raster performance, it probably is pretty close. But I think in terms of ray tracing, it's probably falling substantially behind because what it appears to be on the PlayStation 5 Pro is they're still using the older AMD ray tracing model. They don't have a ton of dedicated hardware going towards ray tracing here. It doesn't seem like it to me. I could be wrong, but we've not seen the full disclosure, but I don't think there is much dedicated ray tracing hardware. They're running extensions, they're doing different things, and it is faster, but it's not a huge difference there. But also the machine learning hardware, it remains to be seen how much of that is running on the GPU as opposed to a dedicated NPU, let's say, or dedicated like tensor cores as we see in the NVIDIA hardware there. So I think that the approach that AMD has gone with the PS5 Pro almost necessarily compromises a couple of those more forward-looking technologies relative to something like the 4070. But I would say it's in the ballpark. Certainly, like if you look at a 4070 or like a 3070 Ti or a 6800, an RX 6800, it's sort of like a mix of all of those GPUs with various compromises and various strengths from each. So it doesn't really correspond perfectly like with the PS5, where it was basically like an RX 6700 almost exactly, right? Minus a couple features. Very, very similar there. Here it's a little different. It does not correspond perfectly to anything, but it's kind of ballpark 4070 in a lot of respects. So I'd say it's a fair point of comparison.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when, people when you guys make your PC build and you're able to like, okay, here's what it looks like compared to this card and that card. And I'm excited to see that content myself. There's two other games we wanted to touch on. Demon Souls. What are your thoughts on Demon Souls? Because continues to look great. Looks like it's running at 60 based on the counts that I did.
We're going to leave it at that with the PS5 Pro to PS5 comparison video. If you want to check this out, it's on IGN's page on YouTube right now. Go ahead and check it out. Give them a like for this content because they did make some great points. They made some really good points. The PS5 Pro is holding up when it comes to frames, at least to me. The only issue and concern that I have is moving forward into the future, because a lot of these games that we've seen are old games, right? So older technology is going to be easier to run on new technology. What is the new technology, aka the new games coming out? What are they doing? Right? What are they doing? Are they going to be locked 60? Are they going to be pushing past 60 into the 120 range? That's what we really want to know. And we don't have too much information out there right now when it comes to these new games. That's going to dictate if the PS5 Pro is worth its dollar sign. So I'm curious, you know, I'm not on either side of the spectrum. I'm not anti PS5 Pro and I'm not pro PS5 Pro. I'm kind of neutral right now. I just want to see what these new games is looking like. I want to see what these frame rates is looking like. That's what I'm curious about. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section, aka the chat. We're going to be moving on to the next topic. So, the last topic of the day. Assassin's Creed Shadow dev ended up talking to a gaming journalist. And he has some pretty interesting things to say, especially given the fact that we just got the news, I believe yesterday or today. It could be either or. I believe yesterday, Friday, September 27th of 2024, that Assassin's Creed Shadows then got pushed into 2025. It then got delayed. So let's go ahead and check out the reasoning behind this delay.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Things at Ubisoft are far worse than I ever could have imagined. After my last video chronicling the rise and fall of Ubisoft, I had both current and former Ubisoft developers reach out for comment. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the issues that the studios face today from the perspective of their own employees. Everything from Me Too movement allegations to agenda-driven content. I want to contrast the comments made in these interviews with what we've seen from Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws. This company has a deep-rooted leadership issue, going as far to think that the vast majority of online criticism is just a toxic minority of gamers. This company and its leadership think that they are on the righteous path. Little do they know, it's a dead end.
Do they though?
Assassin's Creed Shadows has been steeped in controversy and criticism since its initial reveal. Online discourse surrounding the game has been almost entirely negative, with long-term fans of the franchise, general audience, and Japanese audiences up in arms over the creative liberties that Ubisoft has taken with the depiction of Yasuke, the fabled Black Samurai, and feudal Japan. Japanese creators, as well as just random bystanders, have taken to Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube and Reddit, voicing their concerns offended by the game's representation of their history and culture. Inaccuracies like using Chinese architecture instead of Japanese, the legitimacy and relevance of the game's protagonist Yasuke, and even going as far as stealing a flag and imagery from the Sekihara Teppotai, a historical reenactment group where the company had to formally apologize for not asking for permission to use their materials. Ubisoft's adventure into Japanese history has been a complete disaster, and it's only going to get worse.
See, my thing with the whole, you know, Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed Shadow being politically correct or historically correct, when he talked about them interchanging Chinese culture and Japanese culture, that is kind of an issue to me, because you're taking somebody's culture, because we all know Ubisoft is a French, you know, business or company, right? So they're based out of France. They're taking culture from somewhere else, somebody else's culture, and they're not at the bare minimum representing it properly. Not historically, but just generally. Y'all are switching out Chinese and Japanese. Now, I could be speaking too soon, because they might have ties with the Chinese culture into the story. So if that's the case, I might be speaking too soon. We won't know that until the game comes out. But from what we know so far, there is no Chinese or nothing Chinese represented in this game. This is purely a Japanese based type of game, right? Based in Japan. So if that's the case, at least have the respect to represent the Japanese culture properly, right? It's almost like they try to represent black culture in America, and then they're using all these, like, you know, Ghanaian and Rwandan stuff to represent black culture in America. It's two different sides of the spectrum, right? We might be the same skin color, but we live and have totally different experiences, and our cultures are totally different, right? So that is kind of weird to me that they're interchanging the two cultures and they're not being accurate on that level. The historical part of it and Yasuke being a real samurai, all that, I don't care about that, right? Because this is a fake story. This is not a real story. But just the culture part, that's the part I'm having a problem with.
On September 11th of 2024, an article was penned by the New York Times titled "The Fight Over a Black Samurai in Assassin's Creed." The writer, Zachary Small, misrepresents the controversy and player concerns as merely those of a toxic minority of angry Western gamers, and the entire time he fixates on the race of Yasuke and not the broader implications at play in Ubisoft's mishandling and the frank disrespect for Japanese culture and history. This article was a collaboration between Ubisoft and the New York Times in an attempt to redirect the discussions surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows and minimize the feedback. The writer spoke with Kazuma Hashimoto, a consultant and translator for the games industry, later to be found out to be an employee of Sweet Baby Incorporated that did consultant work for Ubisoft, but Hashimoto claimed that it was people in the West who were upset with seeing Yasuke as a samurai, and that many of the online negative comments were written in Japanese, appeared to be roughly translated from English, effectively hand-waving the increasingly loud and valid concerns of the Japanese, asserting that it's all made-up outrage. Nothing more than the gamers' war against DEI or inclusivity in video games. I find it all too poetic and predictable for a AAA publisher to brush off player concerns and use their connections in the media to try to steer public discourse and sentiment into a favorable direction. All of these claims made by the New York Times, as well as other writers, are patently false. You can see the criticisms of Ubisoft's recent releases and the future release in Assassin's Creed Shadows everywhere. It's impossible to ignore. Videos and promotional material ratioed by dislikes and comments in mass numbers. Videos like mine and many others reaching widespread appeal because we have that many people that agree or share similar opinions. With that said, I couldn't imagine that it was possible for anyone to ignore this level of feedback, and Ubisoft has to be seeing it. So I spoke with a few developers from Ubisoft to shed some light on these issues. I started off by asking how Ubisoft internalizes and discusses general criticism from players and the rest of the industry, whether that's its repetitive design, agenda-driven content, or predictable games. They responded saying, at a high level, they rarely talk about it. At a project level, they brush it off as toxic gamer talk. As Asmongold correctly pointed out in a video of his, Ubisoft is filled with toxic positivity that prevents any growth. I then asked
I think that's a major issue right now in gaming, in these gaming studios and developers. I think there's a level of keep your mouth closed and do your job going on right now at a high level in gaming and developing these games, because there's no reason that some of these games are coming out with the type of content that they coming out with on a AAA level, right? It's almost like people in the industry, in the gaming industry, are scared to speak up about issues that they see, because the people that are making these games are developers, right? And they're gamers. Most developers are gamers at the core. That's why they went into game developing. So they see the same issues that we see. They play the same games that we play. They're not playing an exclusive game that, you know, the public doesn't have a chance to play as well. They're playing the same stuff. They're getting hooked on the same games that we get hooked on. The only difference is their day job is they go make other games. So they have a level of, you know, intellect and understanding when it comes to what's popular and what's not popular. And I think the issue lies is that when they see things that are being developed in these games that are not popular, they're not able to say anything. And I think that's the issue. I think that needs to be spoken about more in these gaming, you know, channels and platforms.
What about the Japanese community's backlash over Assassin's Creed Shadows? It's obvious that they haven't done their research, and even the smallest details are going to be noticed by a culture that's as proud as the Japanese. They responded by saying that the criticisms haven't been talked about, and they've only issued demands that we mustn't engage with discussion on that topic publicly. Meaning everything that we've said up until this point, all the criticism that we've had over the years for Ubisoft games, even that of the industry itself, has fallen on deaf ears. I don't know if it's sad or if it's somewhat, it's somewhat cathartic to have that validated. I mean, it's the main complaint that the vast majority of gamers have had over the years, which is that these companies aren't listening to us. And in this case, I have developers that are telling me, yeah, they're not listening to you. One, because they don't want to take criticism, and two, because they don't know how to differentiate bad from good criticism. I think this is my patented catchphrase by now, but when you have this much negative discourse surrounding your games, you need to be listening.
That's
regardless
facts.
of whether
That's
or not
facts.
it's good or bad feedback in your eyes, regardless if you align with these people's political beliefs or social political beliefs or whatever it might be. None of that matters. When you have your games on fire as much as Ubisoft games have been lately, you need to put those fires out somehow. And the only way that you can do that is by listening to them and implementing whatever feedback you possibly can into your games to make them better. Regardless, the other thing is, I'm sorry. I am sick of, I am disgusted by the blatant, feigned virtue over how much they care about Japanese culture and history. I'm sorry. You are bastardizing Japanese culture and history for profit. That's what you're trying to do here. You're not trying to make a history piece. We know that. It's loosely based on, very loosely based on Japanese culture and history. Look at you guys. You put out a Torigate figurine, a half Torigate figurine with your characters on it without knowing the cultural relevance of the half Torigate? After Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Do you have any idea what that means to these people?
That's facts, bro. That is some shit right there. That's like putting some black people standing next to a Ku Klux Klan cross burning, and we standing there cheesing like, you know, that's a very sore topic for the Japanese culture. Like, hundreds of thousands of people died at once, or at least their lives were affected forever. Right, citizens. This wasn't a military base. This was a town. These were cities leveled by a bomb, and y'all put that symbol there as if it's something to play with on a toy. It's very insensitive, Ubisoft. See, I was, prior to this stuff coming out, I was really mainly on Ubisoft's side when it came to the Black Samurai. I was on Ubisoft's side, but as we get more information on the game itself and the imagery that this game is pushing, it's a lot of insensitive things that you can tell Ubisoft didn't do their homework. They didn't do their homework, man. They're using a lot of things that they don't even know are sensitive to the Japanese people. Right? Forget the historic side. We talking about images. Hey, Ubisoft, man, you gotta tighten up, man. I want to defend y'all so bad when it comes to this Black Samurai stuff, but they making it harder and harder the more information we get. It's just these motherfuckers is just doing shit for real, to be honest.
What's wrong with you? At the end of the day, it all comes down to leadership. When you look at Ubisoft's messaging, the lackluster delivery of titles like X-Defiant and Star Wars Outlaws, the inaccuracies and screw-ups with Assassin's Creed Shadows, you see a developer that has no clear plan or vision for what players want, what good games look like, or how to even do their job. I took the time to talk to the Ubisoft developers about workplace culture, about the initiative that they've taken for diversity hiring, and what happens behind the scenes at Ubisoft, and it's wild to see how accurate some of the assumptions that have been made by myself and others. Now, continuing my conversation with one of the developers, I wanted to find more about the workplace structure and management, and seeing as though the company has had initiatives that have been put in place to make the workplace a little bit more diverse, I asked, what benefits have you seen? Is there more diversity in thought, or is it creating a more one-sided environment? They said that so far the initiative hasn't had any impact on the team that I'm a part of. However, it's clear that some topics are taboo. What happened is now that people end up in a meeting with HR for trivial stuff, not adding smiley faces to a message or adding an exclamation point at the end of a message because some people are reporting it for harassment. One of the things that wasn't in your video is that Ubisoft had some controversy during the Me Too period, letting go of a manager in high positions, and some left on their own because they knew they'd be discovered. I then asked, what was the impact of this in the workplace? They responded by saying the editorial direction and overall mindset shifted from the boys club to safe content. Reaching for plain characters like Kay and Star Wars is a perfect example of this. The idea to have beautiful characters such as Baldur's Gate or Uncharted is met with distrust. The developer shared sentiments saying that
Wow.
safe content also leads to limited opportunities on the gameplay side. Even for Star Wars, we had to work with Disney, which would have shut down most attempts at depicting a true criminal underworld with cruelty and drama. When you put this developer's perspective in line with the recent failures and controversies at Ubisoft or any AAA developer at this point, it all makes sense.
Yo, this motherfucker just got the tea on these motherfuckers at Ubisoft. Bro, I forgot about that whole Me Too shit at Ubisoft and these weirdos as working in management at Ubisoft. These motherfucking weirdos done changed the whole culture at Ubisoft. Now they scared to do anything now because they don't want to get caught up in another scandal. They're trying to play it so safe that they making these boring ass games and these boring ass stories. And they're afraid to jump out the window like they used to, man. Ubisoft used to be them niggas back in the day. Ubisoft used to come with them bangers. Ubisoft used, when they drop a game back in the day, it would move the whole industry. And now all of a sudden, all this shit kind of coming off cookie cutter to for real. Like they not really, it's like the soul was removed out of Ubisoft, and I'm seeing why. Because these motherfuckers working at these studios, at any of their studios, everybody playing it safe, everybody walking on eggshells for real. What you mean these, if I send you a text, I'm a Ubisoft employer, I send you a text, I don't put in a happy face emoji in there, y'all calling me into HR, talking about I'm being passive aggressive. That's some weird shit. What the fuck?
An overcorrection in sensitivity brought on by the boys club days that many studios experienced during their early years. As such, many games today lack the teeth and grit that players crave because those things are seen as problematic or unsafe to make in the workplace. Don't use emojis or exclamation points. You could offend someone. Holy shit. How soft have we gotten?
Crazy.
It reminds me of the time where the Helldivers 2 community manager went on a ban spree on their Discord because players were using a throw-up emoji on furry art that was posted in their Discord. Sometimes people need to be offended. While I'm going to try to resist the pull yourself up by your bootstraps tirade, friction on some levels is necessary in life. Now, that doesn't mean that people should be allowed to openly harass others, but there are major issues that arise when you have emojis that can get you fired.
That's crazy.
This overreaction and overcorrection leads to a workplace that is actively hostile towards freedom of thought, expression, and criticism. As one of the interviewees mentioned earlier, they noticed a culture of toxic positivity. From my perspective, toxic positivity is fake people saying fake things, and in the case of Ubisoft, making fake products. Nobody wants to live their entire life being terrified that someone is going to misunderstand them. And when you're at a studio like Ubisoft and you're not even allowed to make characters attractive, otherwise it might upset people at the studio, you have a problem. This culture of fear and forced uniformity stifles creativity and innovation. It's no wonder that Ubisoft is struggling to produce anything of real substance when their own developers are walking on eggshells, more worried about HR complaints than creating groundbreaking games. How can you make bold, impactful content when every idea is scrutinized for being too risky, too offensive, or too unsafe?
You know, it's crazy he said that because if you look at the game that's on the screen right now, Star Wars Outlaws just dropped. I didn't even waste my time with that bullshit. You know why? Because this is supposed to be a game about a criminal. And that shit is T for teen, bruh. Ain't no blood, ain't no gore. They done pacify criminality to a disrespectful level. All criminals out there are disrespected by this game. Because y'all made it look so fucking cookie cutter. Like, I don't care, it's Star Wars. This was the perfect opportunity to make a dark Star Wars game about the criminal underworld in the Star Wars universe. And look at this muff. This shit look happy-go-lucky. It doesn't look like there's any struggle to survive. It doesn't look like there's any type of edginess to it. How would you have a criminal game? A game based on crime. Forget Star Wars. A game based on crime, committing crimes. And there's no edginess to it. That's a contradiction. Like, you can tell by the way that they're making their games that everybody at these studios are scared to step out of the lines that have been created. Everybody's having to walk this super narrow path in the fear of being called out and possibly losing their job. We see this shit. This shit is crazy, bro.
It's a workplace where mediocrity is rewarded and where pushing boundaries, the very things that games are supposed to do, is seen as a liability.
That's crazy.
This workplace culture, this overreaction and overcorrection has infected just about every single industry that's out there. I worked in construction for 7 years up until last December, and the company that I worked for was more afraid of HR issues than they were of injuries. We worked with hydrogen sulfide and hydrogen cyanide, gases that, if released, could kill half of a city. You know, we've discussed modern audiences, the mythical, magical modern audiences, and soft modern games. We found the audience is the people that are running these companies nowadays. You have folks that are walking around on eggshells, afraid to say anything. Anecdotal, but just like a few weeks ago or a month ago or so, I remember I was live streaming, and instinctively I said something was retarded. I'm a millennial. We all grew up saying it. It's a product of my upbringing. Say what you will. I didn't say it consciously, it just came out, and one of my chatters pops up and says, "How often do you say that word?"
Wow.
I banned the fuck out of them.
Wow.
Get the fuck out of here with that. Are you kidding me? People that are out there that are waiting, prepared to be offended. I'm sick of it. You cannot.
I hate motherfuckers like that. You trying to censor me, motherfucker? Get banned. You have been banished to the Shadow Realm. Yes, you have. You ain't gonna censor me. You might not like what I say. You might even be offended by what I say. But I'ma still say what I want to say, right? It's crazy how soft society's done gotten, bro. These companies have gotten so soft that they're diluting all the great content that we're supposed to be getting. In 2024, we're getting bullshit, watered down content so we don't offend nobody. When back in the day, the joke used to be offensive to somebody. Somebody would always, with a good joke, somebody was always offended by that motherfucker because it was funny to everybody else, and whoever the joke was pointed at, it was like it was kind of true. You know what I mean? It was a little bit of truth in the joke. That's what makes jokes funny. Even though it's exaggerated a little bit in the joke, there's still a little bit of truth within that motherfucker that people can relate to, whether you're the butt of the joke or you're the one telling the joke. And now it's like you're telling a joke that has no truth no more. Y'all remove the truth out of the jokes in order to not offend nobody. And now it's some lame ass content that we've been getting, and I see why. These motherfuckers are scared to offend people. This shit is getting out of control, bro.
Not have workplaces that are out there where every single thing that you say, you have to watch every word that comes out of your mouth. Otherwise, it could be your livelihood. And I'm not saying that you can walk around saying anything. That's not what this is. Everybody knows. I think that's the most frustrating part when you have these kind of conversations, is that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
That's facts. That's facts.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Facts.
But the intellectual dishonesty around this kind of thing is just, it's fucking mind-boggling.
And all these motherfuckers on the internet want to play the self-righteous, the holier-than-thou card. These motherfuckers swear they ain't never said no offensive shit to nobody. They ain't never did no offensive shit. And then they want to have this mob mentality and crucify people for saying something that they disagree with. Newsflash to people: just because you disagree with somebody does not mean that they're wrong. But people feel, oh, you hurt my feelings, you gotta be wrong because my feelings are hurt. Fuck you, bitch. Nah, let me stop. Let me stop. Let's continue.
We have workplace environments that actively work against any type of creative or constructive criticism. That's how you get games like this. This is how games and products are being ruined over time, is because nobody's allowed to criticize things properly. You have people in the workplace that are like, I don't think that these characters are going to be received well by the fans, but they're not allowed to say anything about it. They can't say it's not hot enough. It's not masculine enough. They can't say that because it's problematic to say so. Tame and safe are the antonyms of exciting and daring.
That's true.
Baldur's Gate 3 was exciting and daring. Star Wars Outlaws, tame and safe. Whether it's their poor job at representing Japan or the trailers of Assassin's Creed, there are clearly levels of incompetency at work. As many players have pointed out in the game trailers, the promotional materials that are meant to sell the game, you can see frame rate issues, texture issues, poor collision detection, weapons clipping through characters, and more. Controversies aside, this game doesn't look like it's ready for launch, and in fact, its developer just recently came out and canceled their appearance at Tokyo Game Show and announced that the game would be delayed until February.
That's true.
Along with the delay, Ubisoft CEO recently issued a memo to their employees that ended up getting leaked publicly, and it showcases just how out of touch this company is with their players. Rather than acknowledging their real missteps, they're clinging to critic scores, pointing out Star Wars Outlaws had a solid 76 on Metacritic. Oh, I didn't know that you were trying to sell the game to game reviewers. That makes a lot of sense, seeing as though that you're completely ignoring player feedback that clearly shows that your game is hovering in mediocrity. Even worse, they believe that Black Friday sales are somehow gonna magically turn things around, not realizing that no amount of discounting will make up for a product that fundamentally misses the mark and nobody's interested in. The memo reads more like a corporate spin than a genuine reflection of failure. No mention of the controversies or deeper issues that are plaguing the company. They talk about how all players want are highly polished games on launch day, when the truth is players are craving meaningful, risk-taking, authentic content. Things that Ubisoft hasn't seen in decades.
The reason why he didn't speak on nothing going on at the company is because he's the one that's putting the policies in place. He's the ones that's putting these policies and rules in place at these studios that's causing the type of games to come out the way that they are. People are scared to do anything edgy at these studios because of that motherfucker right there. The one that's talking about, oh, we got a rich 76 from Metacritic. Well, man, get your bitch ass up out of here, man. Like, you obviously out of touch. He probably don't even play video games, bro. He probably just a businessman from some random ass company, probably came over from Kellogg's cereal, was looking for some more money. Ubisoft gave him a position because he did all right at Kellogg's. Like, that's the type of motherfucker he is, bro. He not a dude that's tapped in with the gaming culture, tapped in with what's hot right now. These people fail to realize the average gamer is 33 years old. The average gamer is a grown-ass person. More than likely a grown-ass man. We not trying to play these diluted-ass games, man. And that's what they putting out. And he's the one that's putting these rules in place to make these games diluted. Straight up.
Even in their own memo to their own employees, they can't speak frankly about their mistakes. This sanitized messaging shows just how deeply disconnected the company is from the people that it should be listening to. The players. Interested in the perspective of the employees who received this memo, I had a few questions on their thoughts of the messaging and the leadership of the company. I asked, what has been the message from management to the staff about Ubisoft's declining sales? What do they believe is the reason behind it? They responded, the fun fact is they don't talk much about it. They mainly focus on the fact that they reached their financial objectives, which are mainly achieved through casual player sales, not the vocal gamer minority that are sick of what you described in your video. Also, something to know is that through the years, the number of management floors has increased to ridiculous amounts. So communication is often blurry unless they come directly from HQ, and even then, it's almost entirely corpo bullshit that isn't useful in the end. I asked another employee to verify the increase in management at the company, fearing that this is likely one of the biggest issues that's facing the company. Seeing that lack of clear and creative vision, they painted a picture of a company that's not only overrun with management, but that's passively aggressive about removing higher paid and talented employees while slotting in underskilled and unexperienced management at a cheaper rate.
Makes sense.
They claim that Ubisoft as an employer shows little regard for their developers. What happens in practice is that they essentially push out senior engineers, promoting junior engineers to senior roles after just a few years of experience, oftentimes with experience in just one engine. Meanwhile, experienced developers with far broader skill sets are being overlooked. This constant cycle of turnover with inexperienced leaders leads to noticeable drops in quality, with bugs appearing in their games. The passionate, dedicated developers leave, while those who are just going through the motions stay behind. This doesn't just affect the technical quality of their games, but also impacts the design and creativity. For instance, you'll find designers working on FPS mechanics who have never played an FPS game before, or engineers who don't understand how the mechanics they're building are supposed to feel. There's a lack of passion and skill across the board, and the results are obvious. That line about designers working on FPS games and leading FPS projects struck a chord with me. Not long ago, Ubisoft released X-Defiant, a military shooter that was meant to compete with the likes of Call of Duty. However, since the game's release, they've lost the vast majority of their player base, with Ubisoft claiming that the game isn't dying, despite it reportedly losing 94% of its players on Xbox. Why has X-Defiant ran into so many issues? Netcode, hit registration, and general shooter gameplay issues. Common problems that are normally ironed out well before a game ever hits the market, especially a shooter. It's core to the gameplay. If you're playing a live service shooter, all you do is shoot. That's the gameplay. But when the shooting doesn't work, you don't have a game. Ubisoft's leadership is completely disconnected from the reality of game development and player expectations. The problems stem from a bloated management structure that's prioritizing reaching financial targets through casual player sales, rather than listening to the core gaming community that's sick of their tired formulas. Even their own developers are frustrated as they watch as talented senior engineers are pushed out of the studios and inexperienced juniors are promoted far too quickly, leading to a noticeable drop in quality. It's no wonder their games are riddled with bugs and lack any real innovation. This company is more focused on appearances rather than creating meaningful, engaging content.
He just said something so profound. This company is more focused on appearance than making good content. And you know what? It makes sense, because think about all the new studios that's being created that have all these old devs from other companies. And all these devs that are making these new studios, they were a part of like industry changing games. They created industry changing games. And now the only ones that's left is the rookies. They got the rookies in the starting lineup expecting to go to the championship. What? This motherfucker just got out of high school 2 years ago. You done put him in the starting five. You expect this motherfucker to replace KD? To replace LeBron? To replace Steph Curry? Come on, man. You're not gonna make it to the chip because you pushing all the talent away with these sorry ass rules and regulations. This shit is crazy.
The quality of their games doesn't matter as long as they aren't offending anyone. When you see the issues that plague Assassin's Creed Shadows, the pandering, the generic virtue, the lies, the cover-ups, and the lack of understanding of what they're apparently inspired by, when you see how safe and tame, how boring, buggy, and soulless Star Wars Outlaws is, when you see how their most anticipated shooter in X-Defiant is riddled with the most common issues, bugs, all kinds of different things that normal shooters would never have on day one, that's made by developers and led by developers that haven't even played an FPS game, you see a studio and a publisher that lacks integrity and a spine. Cowards in leadership roles, afraid to loosen their grip on the wheel. Developers afraid to speak out and unable to express any of their creativity. Franchises destined for obscurity. Ubisoft isn't just losing its way, it's already lost. And the only thing left is to watch it burn. You know, it's crazy to speculate about these kind of things, but it's an entirely different beast to find out what you've been believing this entire time is absolutely true. And I want to take the time to thank the developers that reached out to me. It was daring for them to do something like that. Obviously, their identities are being kept secret for very obvious reasons. Most of these folks could lose their job over having these kind of discussions. But you know, keep in mind, what's really sad about this is that there are developers that are working at these studios that want to see things change, that want to fix things, that see these obvious issues, but they're not allowed to do anything about it. That sucks. That's something that all of us can empathize with. I'm pretty sure that anybody that's watching this video right now has likely worked with some level of management that took them in the wrong direction, and led them down the wrong path. You know, the biggest issue for Ubisoft is that the damage is already done. Their brand is already torched. Their name and their reputation is in shambles,
especially
by
after
now.
this video.
And looking and seeing that they pushed back Assassin's Creed Shadows, it's for obvious reasons. while they're going to say that it's for fixing issues in the game, there's issues that we saw in the trailers, so that's totally believable. The game likely does need more, more time in the oven more than anything else. But outside of that, I really think it's just them trying to distance it from all of the bad press. Because there's a lot of people that have been talking about Ubisoft. There's a lot of people that have been talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows, and it doesn't look good. And pushing it all the way to February, I don't think any of that's going to change anything. If anything, seeing how often they like to put their own foot in their mouth when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows, you're just giving me and a bunch of other content creators more time to farm you.
Exactly.
Than anything else.
They fail to realize we in a different day and age today. You can't just sweep this shit under the rug. It's gonna be more people speaking out because this video. Shout out to this guy. We gon' go ahead and end this reaction to his video. If you want to check out more of his content, makes great content. Go ahead and check him out. His name is Legendary Drops. This video has gone viral, and for good reason, because I was really hoping that Assassin's Creed Shadows would, destroy all the naysayers saying, oh, we don't want a black samurai, and it would have been a good game. I was truly hoping, but the more information I get about Ubisoft, the worse that they look, and the more it makes it hard for me to believe that they can turn this around, because that Star Wars Outlaws bullshit that they just dropped, it's starting to look like that same bullshit has bleeded over into Assassin's Creed Shadows, unfortunately. And it's a culture issue that Ubisoft is having right now. They're having a huge culture issue within that working environment, and to be honest, leadership has to change. If leadership doesn't change, then we're going to continue to get some half-baked ass bullshit from Ubisoft, because that Assassin's Creed Mirage, that was trash too. What else did they drop recently? They dropped that Avatar game. I played that. That was mediocre as hell. The graphics was good, but the game was mediocre as hell. Nothing stood out about the game except the graphics. So it's like, Ubisoft is having a culture issue, and it's showing in their games. And at this point, all expectation for Assassin's Creed Shadows has officially went out the window. You feel me? So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you still think Assassin's Creed Shadows has a fighting chance, or have you lost all belief and hopes and expectations in Assassin's Creed Shadows? But that's the last topic of tonight. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. It's your boy RJ. Subscribe, because I drop these podcasts on Saturday, either weekly or bi-weekly, depending on the gaming news. And like the video if you enjoyed it, because I'm a small content creator. Every like helps, even if you think it don't. It helps. It's free. Help your boy out. But I'm going to catch y'all on the next podcast. Deuces YouTube.